Hello, everyone. I hope you had a good weekend. So I just want to say thank you all for the feedback you gave me on the last video, I think it was. Can't remember if it was the last one or the one before that. But where I just asked what you were thinking of the upload schedule and if you liked the 2 videos a week or if you would like to see just 1 video a week, but that 1 video would be longer. So I think I'm just going to do what I always do, which is make videos as I want to. And the schedule tends to be about 2 a week, so I think you'll probably still continue to see that, but sometimes, I may just do 1 video a week that is longer. But yeah, I'm glad you all have also been enjoying the compilation videos too. I think they're pretty fun because it allows us to revisit some older stories that maybe not a lot of people have heard. And I think that putting them together with like a central theme is a fun way to do it. I've been thinking about doing one that's just my favorite stories from the channel, because one of the most common questions I get asked are, what are my favorite stories? One of my favorite stories that I've ever done on the channel is in this video, so I'm curious to see if you can all guess which one it is. But yeah, this is a collection of isolation stories, and stories that I feel give a good sense of isolation. I don't know how to describe that. I guess just like stories that when I first read them, it gave me that feeling of isolation. But yeah, be sure to let me know what your favorite story is, and I'll be in the comments like I normally am. Day 1. Alright, this is day 1 of seclusion for me. My therapist recommended that I get away for at least a week to try and get myself together. He also suggested that I keep a journal of my time in voluntary isolation to keep track of my progress. I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to accomplish, but I guess we hit a wall in my treatment or something. Between mild schizophrenia, a boatload of other mental ailments, combined with some less than healthy drug and alcohol abuse, he seemed to think it best for me to get away from the world and just be alone for a time. It might not be too bad out here, if I'm being honest. I've never really hurt for money, so I opted for a nice, private beachfront house rather than some sort of cabin in the woods. I've watched way too many horror movies to think that would be a good idea when I'm trying to heal. It's nice and peaceful out here, and the closest thing to civilization is a small town some 30 or so miles from here. Of course, that does mean I'll have to take a drive if I need anything, but I stocked up when I passed through there on my way here. I feel like Dr. Samuel has been helping me, and I don't doubt that a little isolation could be good for just about anyone, really. It is beautiful here, though. I can see for miles over the ocean, and the sky is such a vibrant blue today. The breeze feels wonderful, and the sand feels lovely between my toes. The house itself is gorgeous, and it's fully furnished with all the creature comforts. It even has a full bar, which will make for some peaceful times reading beside the fireplace. Good thing the doc didn't know about that part. What he doesn't know won't hurt him, as far as I'm concerned. I do have Wi-Fi and cable too, so can't complain there either. I do wonder how that works, as this place is so far removed from civilized life. I used to live in the country some years back, and there were plenty of other housing developments and neighborhoods around, but I never could get Wi-Fi out there, only cable. Still, I can't say I know too much about that sort of thing, and I'm sure not going to argue about the convenience. I think this next week is going to be pretty nice, just what the doctor ordered, quite literally so. Anyway, that's enough for today, journal. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day, what little there is left of this one, anyway. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Day 2. I didn't accomplish much on the first day, though I'm not entirely sure what I was supposed to achieve, to tell you the truth. It was pretty late when I got here yesterday, and I was pretty much beat from the drive. So I just nursed a few drinks while watching some mindless TV and turned in early. Maybe it's because I'm so used to living in the city, but out here, with no life around, with the exception of the population beneath the water, you hear some strange stuff. I was buzzing pretty good when I laid down, so it could have just been my swimming head and the waves brushing the shore outside. Maybe it was the seagulls squawking against the emptiness beyond these walls that sounded like laughter in a way. That's what it sounded like in the bedroom anyway. It was like kids laughing, which, combined with the odd tapping sound, made me imagine children quietly running through the hallway outside my bedroom door. I even got up a couple of times to look around, but after a while, I just shrugged it off and passed out. It could also be that my half-sleeping mind took me back to my apartment in the city, where the brat of a kid upstairs is always hammering his feet across the ceiling. I swear it sounded like he was going to break through and land on my coffee table sometimes. I really need to move out of there. I do sort of wonder what keeps me in that ratty old building, to be honest. Like I told you yesterday, I'm not exactly poor. I could certainly afford something better. But I wonder where I put my keys. I thought I may have left them on the dresser at home, but that would have made it hard to drive here. I did drive here, right? Why am I asking you? You're not going to know where I put my keys. I just looked outside, and my car is right there in the parking spot where I left it. I knew I drove here. Weird. I keep feeling like there's something I forgot to do before I left home. Not like I left the stove on or anything, but I just have that strange, nagging feeling in the back of my head. I should probably take my meds. My doctor prescribed me dopamine to help with my schizophrenic symptoms. Honestly, the name made me laugh at first. Dopamine. It's like dope of mine. The pharmacist didn't seem to find it as funny as I did when I asked him for the dope of mine, though. The old lady in the line behind me enjoyed it, at least. Speaking of drugs, I wonder if I could score any weed out here. Maybe I'll take a trip to town later. Though my sleep had plenty of odd interruptions, I still rested well. I actually slept in for the first time in I don't know how long. Having to be at work doesn't exactly allow much opportunity for just turning off the alarm and sleeping until I wake up naturally. I hate the job too. It's not where I saw myself when I was a kid, you know? I was never the office type, and that cubicle practically suffocates me every day. Gerald, my uptight douche canoe of a manager, can eat a giant sack of dicks for all I care. He may be solely responsible for my mental state as of late. Well, him and my shitbag of a dad, if you can even call him that. My apologies, you didn't ask to hear my life story and all this complaining. We're here to rest and relax, and that's just what we're gonna do. I do need to look for a new job, though. That being said, I don't even need to work, do I? Why do I put up with that prick Gerald when I could just retire if I wanted to? I've made some strange decisions in my life for sure. I don't know. I'll see you later. I think I'm gonna go for a walk. Maybe jump in the water for a minute. Oh, Christ, the water's cold. I jumped in for like a minute and rushed back out. Almost busted my leg on the sand, too. Well, not that the sand could really bust anything, I suppose. The doctor told me I had a tendency to overreact to little things, but wet sand can really hurt. I took a hot shower after I ran back into the house, which made me feel pins and needles all over. Once my body got used to the heat again, it felt pretty nice. And I stayed in there until my fingers were all wrinkly and pruny. There's a hot tub outside, so I may go out and sit out there later tonight when it gets dark. I'll take my cooler with me too. One cannot enjoy the hot tub experience without one's trusty beverage. I don't know why, but that last line made me laugh a little. You probably think I'm crazy, don't you, Journal? But just for that, I'll leave you inside. No hot tub for you, buddy boy. I don't know what I was thinking. There's no hot tub out there. Must be seeing things. I still sat outside and enjoyed the night air, though. There's a boat way out in the water. I can't tell what kind it is from here, but it's probably some sort of yacht if I had to guess. I'd love to own a boat. Maybe I'll buy a boat and quit my job. And just enjoy the open sea and tour the world. Would you like to come along, Journal? I don't know how many pages you have in all, but you're pretty thick. I bet we still have a few good years left together. But I need to give you a name, I think. I can't keep calling you Journal. That would be like naming my kid, well, kid. I don't have a kid, though. I don't think I want children. I think I'd be a pretty bad dad, like my old man. I wonder if he had schizophrenia, too. They say it's hereditary, and that would explain a lot about his parenting methods. I don't think he ever went to a doctor his whole life, now that I think about it. I can't speak for before I came along, but I don't remember him going to any. He wouldn't even go to the emergency room after he punched his hand through the living room window. He just wrapped his hand up and went about his day. I think it bled for like 3 days. He was stubborn, that's for damn sure. I didn't know there would be a full bar here, so I bought a 6-pack of beer at the liquor store when I drove through the little town a ways back. I went ahead and knocked back all of them over the last few hours, but I dropped the last one before I could finish it. The damn thing landed right on its base. It shattered only on the bottom, which looked cool, to be honest. I've never seen that happen before. I did empty out most of the beer before it tipped over, but at least I got a good buzz before I let that last one slip through my fingers. I think I'm gonna go to bed, Journal. It's getting late and I'm pretty sleepy. I'll think of a name for you tomorrow. Day 3. Bob. That's what I'm gonna call you. Do you like it? It's a great name because you can flip it up or down or turn it all around and it still spells Bob. I didn't sleep at all last night. I heard the laughing kids again, and they were certainly not seagulls this time. It wasn't just the footsteps running through the hall this time either. One of the little freaks pounded on the bedroom door. I jumped out of bed, threw the door open, but they were gone. I went around, turned on every single light in the house. I even went outside and ran around with a flashlight for like an hour. I think someone's messing with me. I bet it's the people on that boat. It does look a little closer today, so I bet they got close last night and cut the lights off so I wouldn't see them. Before I go to sleep tonight, oh, you bet your ass I'm going to check every door and window. There's an inherent eeriness in kids' laughter, you know? I think that's why they always have some sort of creepy ghost kid in horror movies. I mean, why anyone would want to have children, I'll never know. You have to be freaked out all the time hearing that stuff. I think I'm going to break up with Becky, Bob. She keeps talking about moving in together, but we've only been going out for like 6 months. It's a little premature, don't you think? Why do I keep asking you questions? Great, I just asked another one. Well, if you'd actually answer me, Bob, we're both way more screwed than I thought. Maybe I'll get a dog. I had one when I was a kid, so I'm sure I could handle one now. He would always bark, though. It got on my nerves, something serious. He was a big mutt, too, had a deep, I'll mess you up sort of bark. Still broke my heart when he died, though. I can't remember what happened, but I remember my dad wouldn't even let me see the body before he buried him. He told me it'd scar me for life if he let me see it. I'm pretty scarred, though. I wouldn't be in therapy and loaded up on drugs if I wasn't. At least he tried, I suppose. Maybe he wasn't such a bad father after all. I think I'm gonna go for a drive, Bob. You wanna come along? Actually, don't answer that. You stay right here. I'll be back later. I didn't realize what a hovel that town was when I passed through it on the way here. I stopped and got some necessities at the grocery store on the ride in, but I don't remember it being as run down as it looks now. It looks like the city may have a population of maybe a couple hundred, and half the buildings have boarded up doors and windows. Maybe they got hit with a hurricane some time back and just never rebuilt. The guy at the counter in the liquor store looked sick too. I didn't even want to accidentally brush against his hand when he handed me my change, so I just told him to keep it. And the guy didn't even thank me. It's strange to see a place so dilapidated so close to a beautiful place like this. The air feels so much cleaner here than it did there, too. But I'll tell you this much, Bob. If I feel the urge to go into town again, I'll drive in the other direction and see where it takes me. I think I'm going to go take a shower now. I feel gross. Well, didn't get much of a chance to enjoy my shower. Some guy came pounding on the door when I was right in the middle of lathering my hair. I wrapped a towel around myself, ran downstairs, ready to beat someone's ass if it wasn't something important. Turns out it was the guy who actually owns the house. Yeah, he was one strange freaking individual too. He was probably at least 6'5", bald as a damn cue ball, and he was pretty pale looking. You'd think he'd have at least some kind of tan owning a place like this. I invited him in, which felt kind of strange, asking the owner if he'd like to come into his own house. He asked me if I was enjoying the stay and all that good stuff. I mean, he was asking genuinely concerned questions, I guess, but the way he asked them felt more like a damn interrogation. He just had that domineering way about him. I found myself backing up further into the chair I was already sitting in, all defensive-like. I told him about the noises and that I thought someone was trying to mess with me, but he just said the mind can play tricks with the sounds of the ocean and stuff. I don't know, though. He seemed like he knew something and didn't want to tell me, you know? I wonder if he was just checking in to make sure they were getting to me. I bet he's the ringleader. He's probably not even the owner and just wanted to come lay out the place so he can mess with me more efficiently. Maybe I should have brought a gun. I think I'm gonna stay awake tonight. Yeah, it's been getting dark outside, and I keep hearing things. I could have sworn I saw something out of the corner of my eye a little while ago, but it was just the light reflecting on the TV. I'm not sure where the light was coming from, but it could have just been the sunset causing light to just pan through the window, like movie credits in reverse or something. Either way, I'm going to check it out. I grabbed a fire poker since I don't have a lot of options to defend myself with. I could grab a butcher's knife from the kitchen, but I think the poker looks more intimidating if I see anyone out there. I'll be back in a bit. Keep an eye on things here, will you, Bob? I didn't see anyone out there, but I swear to Christ I heard the laughing again. It sounded like it was coming from way over to the side of the beach where it meets the trees. I ran over there and shouted out that I was armed and that I'd kill them, but they just laughed harder. What are they playing at? Someone's messing with me, I swear to God. The boat was closer, too. It's maybe, I don't know, like 40 or 50 feet from the shore now. The light from the moon was playing tricks with the water, but at first, it looked like an honest-to-God pirate ship or something. I was like, do they even make those anymore? Until I got distracted by the laughing again. It sounded like they were running through the sand right behind me, too. I turned around, and of course, there was nothing, but when I looked back at the water, the boat just looks like a yacht again. I'm starting to think that the medicine is messing with my head more and more. The doctor told me it was supposed to stop me from seeing things, but it sure as hell isn't doing the trick. I'm gonna call him tomorrow. The solitude thing ain't working out, not for me anyway. I'm definitely not sleeping tonight. I'm gonna catch these guys and make them sorry for messing with the wrong person. Hey, I'll get back to you tomorrow, Bob. They need to think I'm sleeping, so I can't talk to you anymore tonight. Day 4. I saw them, Bob. I got one of them across the back of the head with the fire poker, too. They were fast for having tiny little scampering legs, but they weren't planning for me to be on guard. Even though I splattered the wall with the little bastard's blood, he still got away from me. There were like 6 of them or something. They were all wearing Halloween masks, but they still laughed and giggled like stupid little kids. They screamed like kids, too, or at least the one I clipped did. I called the police, and they're on their way as we speak. I'll show them where I sprayed the wall with tiny hoodlum blood, and they'll have to believe me. I ain't got any cuts or anything, so they can't say I just bled myself to sell the story. For sure, they'll try to make some excuse or pretend there ain't nothing there or something, but I know what I saw. I know what I felt when the iron rod made contact too. There's no way that kid don't have a hole in his skull now. I bet he dropped close by or something. Probably running on pure instinct when I nailed him. Oh yeah, he's sorry now. He messed with the wrong guy. Oh, there's the blue lights now. Okay, I'll be back, Bob. Figures. Yeah, of course they didn't believe me. They even threatened to arrest me if I wasted their time like this again. Yeah, I know it's a long drive to get here, but this shit's serious, and I'm being harassed. As I predicted, they claimed they couldn't see the blood on the wall, and if I'm being honest, I didn't see it either now. I bet somebody washed it off while I wasn't looking. Maybe they did know I was awake and hung a tarp up or covered the wall with a thin strip of cardboard or something like that. That's probably it. They set me up. That's why the kid kept running, because he wasn't hurt in the first place. Damn! I know I made contact with something, though. Did I hit the wall? No, I didn't hit the wall. I just checked it. There's not even a mark. Maybe the fake blood splatter wall was metal? It didn't feel like I hit metal, but I had a lot of adrenaline pumping too. Maybe it's just a lack of sleep or something. Could I have inadvertently fallen asleep and dreamed it all? It felt so real. I need to call Samuel. These meds are messing with my head. Maybe I don't really have any mental conditions, and he's performing some sort of sick experiment on me. Like some sort of messed up social experiment for one of his stupid journals, and I'm just the perfect guinea pig with my background. If he's the one behind this, the pharmacist had to be in on it too. The bottle says dopamine, but maybe it's actually some sort of hallucinogen. I need to do some research on this. I bet it doesn't even look like the pill I'm supposed to be taking. Oh yeah, I'm on to you, Dr. Sam. Yeah, they're supposed to be pink. The pills are supposed to be pink, and these ones are green. I knew it. I knew I wasn't crazy. I flushed every one of those pills down the toilet, and I called my lying doctor. Of course, he claimed that I'm having some sort of episode or reaction to the pills. He even said he's calling someone else in. But I'll be damned if I trust a word he says now. I told him I was on to him, and he told me to calm down and come home immediately, or have someone come pick me up. Like I know anyone who'd drive all this way to come get me. Who the hell does he think I am? Oh yeah, I'm going home all right. As soon as I get there, I'm kicking the shit out of a certain doctor too. He even had the nerve to bring up my dad. The last thing I asked him for was a therapy session over the phone. I know damn well it's not my fault he's dead. The bastard attacked me and I defended myself. He was the first in a long line of folks who thought they could push me around and get away with it. It's his own fault, really. He's the one who taught me how to use the gun in the first place. He showed me so I could protect myself if anyone ever tried to hurt me. What the hell did he expect when he was the one that tried to hurt me? I was still a kid when he tried pushing me around, and I'm a grown-ass man now. What does my doctor expect to happen now? He's just trying to save his own ass. I tell you, Bob, you better never try pushing me around or you'll get yours too. I'm sorry, Bob. I got myself worked up and I didn't mean to take it out on you. I let that guy get to me, and it's probably my own fault for trusting him in the first place. Maybe I'll stay out here just one more day. Sure, I haven't been sleeping much, but now that I'm not taking the medicine, maybe my head will clear up. I think I'm gonna go for a drive, though. No way I'm going back to Tetanus Town, but maybe I'll see what's out the other way. It does make me feel better talking to you, though. You may be my only real friend, even if you were just an empty book before I started scribbling in your guts. I've decided I'm not going to kick Samuel's ass either. I suppose intellectuals like him have to experiment on people if they want to make change in the world, or at least get their name in the history books of mental health and whatnot. Once whatever it is he had me on is completely out of my system, I'm sure I'll be back in the right mindset. Just bear with me, Bobby, my boy. The world seems quieter again, and I think I'm starting to feel like me again, or at least getting there. I'll be back later. Don't wait up. There's literally nothing out there. Not that way, anyway. I drove for like 2 hours and didn't see so much as a single gas station. Luckily, my little Honda is economical, but I may have to visit that little town that time forgot if I want to get gas anytime soon. Maybe I should just try to get one of those electric cars. I'm sure I can afford one, if I can afford to stay in this place. Strangely, I can't even remember what I paid for this week. Probably just my foggy brain coming down from whatever those little green pills were, I'm sure. Oh, some more good news though. I don't see the boat anymore, so that may have just been another hallucination, or maybe whoever they were decided to move on. Either way, I should sleep better tonight. It's raining outside now, so I won't be spending any time on the beach tonight. I should call Becky, maybe tomorrow. She hasn't called me though. Maybe she's finally grown tired of me. I'll call her tomorrow. No reason to stress or anything like that. Honestly, I'm pretty exhausted. It's been a rough couple of days, Bob. I think I'll turn in early tonight. We'll see you tomorrow, bud. Day 5. They cut me! They cut me deep, Bob. They're real. It's not the drugs. God, Jesus Christ, it hurts. I must have been sleeping hard because I didn't even feel them strap me down. It wasn't until one of them bit my thumb off that I even knew they were in the room. I was fighting as hard as I could, but the straps were tight. How did they get them so tight? They only looked like they were, 8 or 9 years old at most? How could the little bastard's jaw be so strong? There were 3 of them in the room, and I heard more of them laughing outside the door. Jesus Christ, I can't believe this is really happening. He just kept biting off my fingers while the other 2 were just carving into my chest and stomach with kitchen knives. They didn't even realize I was slipping loose when all the blood that was spilling out of me made it so easy for my right hand to get free. Before the ones cutting me knew what happened, I jammed my fingers into the chubby little biter's eyes. He started wiggling and flailing around while chunks of my middle finger were spewing out of his mouth. I didn't quit digging in his sockets until he couldn't move anymore. I got them deep in his little brain pan and the lights were out for that little evil shit. The other two were out of the door by the time I got the rest of the straps off me. I caught them, though. Oh, yeah. Oh, I caught those little surgeons, and I showed them how a real surgeon operates. There's bits of them all the way down the hall, and I'm gonna leave them there, too. If any of the ones who were laughing on the other side of the door come back, they'll see what happens when you mess with me. I need to get to the hospital. It's a good thing I'm right-handed. I still have the ring and pinky finger left, though. Good thing the little cannibals didn't start with the most useless fingers on my hand. I'm sorry, Bob. Bob, my friend. Oh, Bobby boy. It's shock, I think. I think I'm in shock, Bob. I called 911, called an ambulance. Blood loss. Lots of blood. Oh, so much blood loss. I don't know how much. I don't know if it's just mine. Blood everywhere. Bloody walls, bloody floor, bloody me, bloody Bob, sticky blood all over. I think I'm gonna pass out till the ambulance gets. Day 6. It all felt so real. I know it was real, wasn't it? I woke up and it was morning again. I think it was morning. It was light, but it was light when I passed out too. I looked at the calendar, and it's the 12th now. That means it's the 6th day, right? Yesterday would have been the 5th, so what happened? There's no blood, there's no bodies, or the bits of them I left scattered through the hall. My left hand is fully fingered. It just had to have been a dream, but I know it wasn't. Dreams don't hurt. Not really. That's the way it works, right? I need to get away from here. Maybe it's this place, you know? Maybe there's something in the air or the water or something. Whatever turned that town into Chernobyl's little brother, you know? Maybe it was a spill or something toxic in the water supply, but it's powerful stuff. I'm packing my stuff and getting the hell out of here right now. First thing I'm doing when I get back is finding a new psychiatrist. Even if I didn't need one before, I sure as hell need one now. I'm gonna stash you in my luggage until I get back home, Bob. I'll talk to you soon. It's gone, Bob. The town isn't there anymore. Well, not all of it anyway. A lot of the buildings have crumbled, as if it's been deserted for centuries. There's not the slightest sign of any life around. I thought I could have driven in the wrong direction at first, but there was nothing out that way yesterday. I know it was the same town. The more I think about it, I know it wasn't dilapidated when I first drove through it on my way here. What could cause a town to rapidly decay in a matter of days? It has only been days, right? I couldn't get gas. The gas station was in ruins, and I couldn't access any gas that may still lay beneath the concrete ground. I had to turn around and come back to this godforsaken beach house. I didn't think I would make it. The car was sputtering something awful those last few miles of running on fumes. I can't go anywhere now. I tried to call Becky. She didn't answer. I even tried to call the doc, but it kept ringing there too. This is all his fault, Bob. First, the recommendations to even take this damn trip, and then there was the hallucinogens. I think this was all a trap, all part of his sick experiment. I bet he's watching me now. The house still has power and cable and internet, but the closest town apparently closed its doors, 100 years ago? If I ever get out of here, I'll put good old Dr. Sam through a few experiments of my own. What am I gonna do, Bob? I hear something outside. I hope it's just the waves playing tricks again. I've got to check it out. Jesus Christ, it was a kid. Bob, it was a kid. Not one of the ones from before. He wasn't scary and demented, but he was hurt. Christ, he was crawling out in the woods, like dragging himself across the ground. I was scared, you know. I thought it was one of the little demon seed bastards again. I ran to him with my trusty fire poker held high. I was ready to just swing it into his skull, but he just flipped his body over and looked up at me. His feet. Jesus, someone had cut his feet off. I dropped the poker and got down on all fours. He was crying and wailing in pain. I tried to pick him up, but he screamed when I attempted to wrap my arms around his little body. His shirt was covered in blood. I didn't notice at first because of his feet. I lifted his shirt up and had to fight to stop myself from puking all over the poor kid. His body was all cut up, his intestines were hanging out, and his chest had been spread open. I tried to help him. I swear to Christ I did, but I actually saw his heart make its final beats. I watched it stop. Who would do something like that? I brought him inside. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't leave him out there. I know him, Bob. I know his face. I can't remember where I know him from, though. I tried to call the police, but nothing. I can't stay here. I have to get away from this place. He's gone. I took a shower to try to calm down and clean the blood off. I came back downstairs. Nobody was there. Like no body. No blood from where I carried him in. It was dripping everywhere when I brought him in. I still see it on my hands, though. I see it dripping on the floor from my fingertips, but the drops don't stay on the ground. It's almost like it sinks right through without leaving a mark. I see it covering my fingertips and dripping down my pencil while I write this, but it doesn't stain your pages. I went outside, and even the blood trails from the kid's ankle stumps were gone from the tree line. I'm losing it, Bob. I'm never getting out of here. I know that now. Day 7. I'm not getting out of bed today. No use. No reason. I think I'll just stay here for now. Day 8. I'm going numb, Bob. Emotions are drained. Mind is slipping. All 6 of them came in this time. The boy from the woods was there. He was the last one who came through my door. They already had me tied down before he walked in. He still didn't look evil or sinister. He just watched. He just stood there with his arms crossed and looked on while they cut me apart. His expression seemed no different than if he was watching Curious George. The masks were gone now, just cute little kid faces smiling down at me like they were playing a board game or drawing funny little pictures. They didn't look hateful or angry or anything, you know? Just looked like children having fun. The same chubby kid bit my fingers and toes off. He looked no more harmless than if he'd just engulfed a whole jar of strawberry jam, and it smeared all over his face. The little blonde girl scalped me, carved her box cutter all around my head, and just pulled the skin off like it was a wig of one of her dolls. The girl with brown hair, tied into pigtails, clipped off my nose and ears with some hedge trimmers. She tossed them to the fat kid like she was rewarding her puppy. The 2 other boys, a shaggy-haired blonde kid and one with a buzz cut, just cut my shirt off with some scissors and splayed it open. They smiled at me. It was a genuine sort of smile, you know? It was friendly, in a strange sort of way. When they turned their heads back at each other, they dug their fingernails into my skin. It was like one of those zombie movies where the undead ram their fingers into the victim's stomach and just pull it open like a trash bag. The kids grabbed at my intestines and organs and pulled them out one by one. They tossed them over their shoulders, and they landed on the floor with a splat. All of this was going on at once, Bob. I was scalped, had my nose and ears severed, my fingers and toes chewed off, and my insides pulled apart within minutes. I can't even describe the pain. I had no idea such pain could even exist. I always assumed shock would kick in and block out the nerve endings, block it from making its way back to the brain or something. I felt everything, Bob. Every bite, every tear, every cut. All of it. I felt the life drain out of me, and the darkness started to surround me. I was actually glad. I just wanted it to end. No sooner did the lights go out than I found myself laying there again. Not a mark on me. It happened, Bob. I swear to God it did. I'm leaving here today. I'll keep walking until I can't stand. I won't stay here again. Day 9. I walked all day and most of the night. I ate some of the sandwiches I made for the trip and slept on the ground. I slept for maybe 4 hours, but when I woke up, I started walking again. This entry may be titled Day 9, but I think it may encompass a few more than just one day. I already made it through the crumbled town, though there's far less of it remaining now than the last time I passed through it. I think I may be approaching the highway soon. I hear the rumbling of speeding vehicles in the distance. Maybe I can hitch a ride from someone, or that's what I'm hoping at least. I probably don't look like the most inviting hitchhiker at this point, but perhaps some kind-hearted driver will offer me an olive branch. This will hopefully be my last stop-off before reaching the real world again. My feet are throbbing, My back hurts like hell, and my supply of sandwiches is running low. My head feels clearer now, and the idea of seeing civilization makes my heart soar quite a bit. Whatever happens from here on out, I'll never go back to that beach again. That's a fact. I think I'm going to break up with Becky too. She wants kids, I think. I didn't plan to ever be a father before, and I'm sure I don't want children now. Maybe this was just some sort of psychological warfare my own brain waged on me to make me realize that once and for all. One thing is for sure, I'm not built for solitude. I can't say I care for people in general, but I realize now that I at least like to know they're around. Not far to go now. Day 10 through 12-ish. I made it home, Bob. I never thought I'd see this shitty apartment again. I sat in the bathtub for close to 2 hours when I got here. Just dropped my stuff on the floor and headed straight to the bathroom. I would have showered, but I could barely stand. I walked down the breakdown lane of the highway for 3 hours before I could convince someone to offer me a ride, and looked worse than a mangy dog when the truck pulled over to the side of the road. I had nothing left, but the pure joy of seeing my long walk come to an end gave me a second wind enough to sprint to the passenger door of the big rig. The driver was a really cool guy, and he didn't even say a word about the way I looked when I hopped in. He looked like he was likely some kind of weekend biker or something. Long gray beard, bandana tied around his ponytailed white hair. He even wore one of those leather Harley vests. He wasn't planning to drive into the city, but he said he'd get me close. By the time we reached the city limits, he decided to just go ahead and take me the rest of the way. He was a really cool guy, I'll tell you. I offered him a $100 bill for his trouble, but he just waved it off and told me just to pay it forward someday. I definitely have a new outlook on people in general. I'd probably still be walking the highway if he hadn't come along. I think I'm going to keep you around, Bob. You may be the only thing that got me through last week. Samuel may be full of it, but the journal was a good idea. Credit where credit's due and all that. That being said, I'll see you tomorrow, Bobby boy. I think I'm going to the bar where I can be around people for a while. Day 13? I don't know why I'm still numbering the days now that I'm home. I may just keep it up and see how high the number gets before I get to the last page. Saying that, though, I'm not entirely sure why I'm so deep into this book already. You're pretty thick, Bob. No offense intended. My last 13 days should logically only take up 13 pages at most, but I'm clearly a good halfway into this journal. Have I noticed that before? It feels like I have. But I strangely have no urge to flip through the first pages. My head feels a little swimmy. I think I'm going to take a nap. I quit my job, Bob. It was a dead-end job, and I deserve better than that place. I say I quit, but I just chose not to go in or even call them. Not a great way to end a meaningless career choice, I know, but what can you do? I tried to call Becky again, but she's still not answering. Maybe she's ending this relationship the same way I ended my job. Doesn't matter, really. Makes things easier in the long run. I do think I'll go see old Dr. Sam today. I've got a few things I'd like to say to him. I'm not trying to get arrested, so I'll keep it civil and all, but screw that guy. Alright, later, Bob. Actually, I think I'll take you with me. I want to be able to show him what he put me through. I wonder if Mrs. Jacobs moved out. I haven't heard her little brat running back and forth since I got home. I hear someone up there walking around, but it ain't a kid. Maybe things are looking up for me. Jesus Christ, I saw them, Bob. All 6 of those little bastards. I was in the taxi on the way to Samuel's office, and they were just playing on the side of the road. I told the cabbie to pull over and let me out, tossed them a 20, and ran after them. Did they follow me here? Maybe they work for the doctor. It can't be a coincidence that I saw them so close to the office, right? As soon as I ran at them, they took off down an alley. They're pretty quick, but I was able to keep up with them. I've got them cornered, I think. They ran into an abandoned warehouse or something, but this is the only entrance. No, I'm not going to hurt them, Bob. I just want some answers. Yes, I know it's them. You don't think I'd recognize the brat patrol that filleted me like a fish? I could really use my fire poker right now. Forget it. I'm going in. No, it's not real. This can't be real. I ran in, Bob. All 6 of them were standing there in the center of the room. It wasn't a warehouse, I don't think. There was plastic lining on the walls and the floor. It's like that clear plastic stuff killers use in the movies to help them clean up evidence and all that. It almost looked like the walls were wooden. I could even see light shining through the splits in the walls behind the tarp. They weren't alone this time. It wasn't just the kids anymore. Standing behind them, like a ringleader, was me. How can that be, Bob? How could I be there behind them when I was standing right in front of them? Do I have a twin I didn't know about or something? They all had blood dripping from their fingers, every one of them. They just smiled at me with mouths that were way more wide than they should have been. I ran, Bob. I ran out of there, ran as fast as I could back through the door I came in. They all laughed at me when I turned tail, every one of them, even me. That one kid, though, the one that was bleeding in the trees, the one that just stood and watched while the others tore me apart. I know who he is now. He's Jacob's boy, the brat from upstairs. I'm going to knock on their door. I don't think they live there anymore, but maybe whoever is in that room now could know where they went. The only thing that makes any sort of sense was that this was all in my head. Everything seemed to lead back to that one kid. This is just a riddle that I need to solve, and I'll bet money on him having the answers. It was a man, an older guy, maybe in his 50s. He walked with a cane, and he looked terrified when he saw my face at the door. He actually just screamed and slammed the door back in my face. I pounded on the damn thing and called out that I needed to talk about the folks who used to live there. He just yelled, "Not again, never again," and sounded like he had burst into wailing sobs. I think I remember something. I feel cold all of a sudden. My hands are covered in blood. It's all over them. I washed them, but they won't get clean. I think I did something, Bob. Christ, what could I have done? I won't go back up there again. It's late. I'm going to get some sleep. Day 14. I'm going to see Dr. Samuel. I won't get distracted from my mission this time. I'm starting to remember things, Bob. It's still fuzzy, but I think I know what I've done. The blood is still on my hands, but it's not dripping anymore. It's just stained my skin, my ruby red hands glaring up at me with their accusing stare. Part of me wants to stall, you know? I know I have to go see Samuel, but I fear I know what will happen when I do. Deja vu, perhaps. There's something unsettlingly familiar about all of this, but it's time to raise the veil. I know everything now, Bob. I think this may be the last time we talk, at least with this much clarity. I went to Samuel's office, but it wasn't an office anymore. It's a house. A pleasant little house on the beach. It's not just the house now, though. There's a barn out by the tree line. A small wooden barn with plastic lining the inside. That's where I killed them, Bob. All 5 kids. I killed adults too, mind you. Some were just for the purpose of keeping my secrets, though. I never took any pleasure in killing adults. Well, most of the time, anyway. They fight back, you see. They're not as easy, and I didn't feel as powerful when I tried to hold them down. It started when I was a child myself, you know. I convinced everyone that my father was self-defense, but I just didn't like the way he talked to me that day. Sure, they put me in therapy, and I talked for hours and days about how he beat me and berated me, and I finally had enough. He never did those things, though. He did love me, I think. I think he knew something wasn't quite right with me. He tried his best after my mother died. She was technically my first, but I didn't exactly get the blood on my hands for that one. I just pinched the tube that was feeding oxygen into her cancerous lungs for a few moments. She wasn't long for this world, and I helped her, I think. Dad never suspected that one, but it broke him regardless. He was suffering, and I'm sure he didn't mean to talk down to me that day, but the damage was done. I almost regretted it at first. The way he looked at me while he was choking on his own blood stays with me to this day. He appeared genuinely surprised. Even when I forgot the circumstances, I still saw that. I guess, technically, Buddy was the first time I got blood on my hands. His barking kept me awake one night too many, and I just had enough. I carved him up a good bit. I made sure to clean the knife before I put it back in the kitchen. I don't think Dad ever suspected me of that one either. Molly was the first kid I killed. She was the same age as me at the time. She mocked me in front of everyone, and they laughed at me for weeks because of it. I didn't kill her until the whole thing was forgotten, though. I was smart enough to point the finger away from me. When they saw what was left of her, they did not suspect that another child could have done something so brutal. Randy came next. He was another one who made fun of me. I cut him up worse than Molly. They thought an animal got to him. Tim and Julia didn't happen until I was in college. I didn't have any good reason for those two. I guess I just didn't like how they looked at me while I was walking past the playground. Vincent was a little after my 31st birthday. I had gone a long time in between feeding my impulses, and he just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time. Becky was the first adult I had killed since my father. Well, aside from a couple of people who saw things they weren't supposed to. Those were a necessity and not pleasure, so I don't count them. I didn't mean to hurt her, Bob. She got pregnant, and I had to remove my seed from her. If she'd confessed her pregnancy to me earlier, it wouldn't have caused her so much damage, I think. She was 4 months along when she finally admitted it to me. I didn't mean to hurt her, not really. Gerald was easy. I think I just did him for pure fun. He was an awful and condescending prick. Another case of the wrong place for him and the right time for me, even if it was his own home. I was just driving by when I saw him sitting out in his rear deck in his hot tub. I didn't even know he lived there, but I couldn't resist the opportunity. It was late and most of the city was asleep. I was the only car on the road, so I didn't even try to hide what I was doing. I pulled over and snuck up onto his deck, drowned him in his own jacuzzi. Finally, Jimmy Jacobs, who kept pounding across the ceiling of my apartment no matter how much I protested against it. He was homeschooled and was rarely away from the apartment, so I had to lure his mother away for enough time to take care of him. I paid a bum $40 to pretend to be a cop. He told her that her sister had been arrested and that she would have to bail her out. She apparently wasn't the smartest of people, but she ran out of the building, leaving Jimmy home alone. Had I made quicker work of him, she would have been none the wiser when she got home. But I wanted to make an example of what he'd put me through. I tied him down and cut off his feet with a hacksaw. How was I to know that his mother had run out without her wallet? I was enjoying my work so much that I didn't even notice her coming in. She screamed, and I turned around just in time to receive an entire magazine worth of ammo she fired into me. That's when I met Dr. Samuel, or as I would come to know him as, Samuel the Accuser. I still don't fully understand the beach house. The barn I did my work in was abandoned and hidden by the forest. Perhaps the beach is just because I always dreamed of living there. Maybe it's just that one final insult, seeing my dream turn sour. I understand now why I'm so deep into your guts, Bob. Hell is in repetition. It keeps going back and back and back again. Whenever I find the truth of my horrific deeds, I go back to the beginning. Repetition, over and over, a never-ending cycle. I deserve this, Bob. I'm a monster. I'm well aware of that. Even before I knew who the children were, I wanted to kill them. Even before they started cutting me, I wanted to cut them first. Maybe if it ever gets to the point that I don't want to feel their blood spraying across my face and leaking between my fingers, maybe then I'll be free. Will I, though? Repetition, Bob. I will be going now, my only friend. I fear I will see you soon. Do I always call you Bob? I wonder.
Day 1.
All right, this is day 1 of seclusion for me. My therapist recommended that I get away for at least a week to try and get myself together. He also suggested that I keep a journal of my time in voluntary isolation to keep track of my progress. I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to accomplish, but I guess we hit a wall in my treatment or something. Between mild schizophrenia, a boatload of other mental ailments, combined with some less than healthy drug and alcohol abuse, he seemed to think it best for me to get away from the world and just be alone for a time. It might not be too bad out here, if I'm being honest. I've never really hurt for money, so I opted for a nice, private beachfront house. In early April of 2016, a study was conducted on the psychological effects of solitary confinement under the influence of lights. It was on a Sunday morning when tragedy transpired for Guy. At their request, we have omitted the names of those involved who do not wish them included. He had just sat down with a frothy cup of flat white when the unknown number dialed his phone. Calling from New York State Penitentiary was a prison chaplain, who opened the conversation with, "Good morning, Mr." Then, indiscreetly, the chaplain did not hesitate to add, "I regret to inform you of this." The voice, as Guy describes it, was hollow and absent, but trying its best to sound compassionate, like an apathetic machine wired to read an empathetic script. The chaplain continued, "It concerns your brother. Last night, he unexpectedly passed away in our custody. The remains have been released to a mortuary and must be claimed within 48 hours or disposition must be made, as provided by law." The call was then affectionately ended with, "We extend our sympathy for your loss." One day after that, a letter of condolence was sent. At 3:15, March 13th, Guy's twin had hung himself in his cell, ending a 70-day stretch in solitary confinement. An officer had found his somewhat elevated body motionless and unresponsive. A bedsheet had been used, tied off to a plumbing fixture. Death by slow strangulation. Very few ligature marks visible on the neck. Heavy discharges of vomit from both nose and mouth, as summarized in the investigative report. It had been his fourth year of a 25-year sentence for second-degree murder. He had been convicted of killing a woman he was attempting to carjack. "My little brother had issues. I've always known that." Guy fought back the quivering tones in his speech and paused to wipe his eyes. "We had just graduated high school when our parents passed from a car accident. They were both killed almost instantly. We had no aunts or uncles, no trustworthy relatives. We just had each other. We got mixed up with bad people. They got in his head and led him down a bad, very crooked path. I gave him all the help he needed, I did. It wasn't enough to steer him from that path, but I never gave up on him. After every phone call, every monitored visit, I told him I'd always be here, waiting for his sentence to clear." Guy also had this to add. "I know that I'm not alone in my belief that solitary confinement is a monstrous punishment to inmates. My brother had a history of mental issues. He should have been in a hospital, not a prison, let alone an isolated lockup. I believe we've forgotten what it means to correct bad behavior. Torture can't force a broken mind to repair itself. It only forces the mind to behave. That is not a solution or correction. It's cruelty." Officials from the penitentiary maintained that there was little to no concern that the inmate had been planning to take his own life. Had it been the case, he would have immediately been transferred to a mental health unit. Faced with the cruel separating agent of grief, Guy turned to his research for comfort. He knew that extinguishing solitary confinement was unlikely, considering its worldwide practice, so he instead focused on an alternative approach. His proposal? To capitalize on the benefits that seclusion does have for inmates, while also applying a more humanitarian method to their improvement. His work brought him to an isolation chamber, constructed within a former nuclear bunker somewhere off the outskirts of Hempstead, New York, a keepsake of the Cold War. After weeks of lengthy meetings, countless emails, and frustrating phone calls, Guy's preparations were complete. For the next 2 weeks, he would lock himself inside the 6x8 space, trapped between the cement walls and all-encompassing darkness. "I needed an environment as authentic as possible," Guy explains at the outset. "I found myself drawing a lot of inspiration from The Hole on Alcatraz Island, a pitch-black, tight space without any human contact. Granted, not all isolation cells have these severe conditions, but if we can still produce positive results from the worst treatment possible, imagine the success from less harsh conditions. Start from the bottom and work your way up to the top." The room was equipped with a refurbished toilet, up-to-date ventilation, a metal bed frame, and a small table. Bolted atop the table was a lantern fitted with a bulb that could be changed to different colors via remote control. I have a very loud mind, and vivid thoughts are always trying to squeeze their way out, so there's no doubt the sensory deprivation will take a huge toll on me. That is where the light will come into play. As it changes colors, my reactions to those different colors in my mind will be noted. Colors stimulate the brain. There's a real psychology here. I hope that the changing colors will act as a tether that will allow my senses to cling on to something, and will perhaps help me manage and endure my time in there with minimal negative effects. Thus, Guy dubbed this experiment the Lighthouse Project. The ones overseeing the experiments, handpicked by Guy himself, were Ronald Westbrook, a retired clinical and forensic psychologist, Victoria Wick, a therapist specializing in PTSD patients, and Brian Rexford, an independent radio psychologist. To protect the privacy of certain individuals, their names and identifying details have been changed. Though each came from a different background, they were all equally fueled by discovery and Guy's compelling determination. Together, they agreed on their joint schedules and varying night shifts to observe Guy's behavior and safety throughout the test. They'd be stationed in a separate room, rigged with different screens and connected to night vision cameras within the chamber. Internal audio would also be fed to them by the recorder Guy would have on his person the entire time. Other than documenting and supervising the experiment, they were also to follow another important instruction. Do not, under any circumstances, stop the test. No matter what is said, screamed, or begged, the door will remain locked until the experiment is complete, the only exception being if a hospital is needed. Before being taken to his cell, Guy partook in several psychological tests and interviews to examine his mental capacity of taking part in the project. He'd take with him a month's worth of military food packets, drinking water, toilet paper, and batteries for his recorder. When asked if he'd prefer a set of different sheets, Guy declined. With everything now in motion, the door was locked, the lights were cut, and the cameras were activated. Day 1. Incarceration. Guy spent his first 10 minutes in absolute darkness, lying on his bed. Every so often, he makes a popping sound from his mouth. Minute by minute, the popping becomes a hum, and then graduates into a whistle as Guy taps his foot impatiently. After the 30-minute mark, he records his first log. Day 1. 04:01:16. Audio log, 30 minutes inside.
What a bizarre feeling. My hand is an inch in front of my face and I can't see it at all. It's pitch black and dead quiet in here. I'm not even sure what to say at this point. I want to hear something other than my breathing bouncing off of the walls.
4 hours pass. Guy takes to wandering around the room, appearing to count the number of steps it takes to reach each wall. The result? Not very many. Day 1. Audio log. 4 hours inside.
It's getting cold in here. I should have brought a heater or something with me. I've already lost track of how long I've been here. Maybe that's a good thing. I have to say, this is the worst hotel I've seen. The service is god-awful. Room service, anyone?
Guy, to his credit, forces a smile for the cameras and masks the ever-growing anxiousness with humor. But, as the passages of lightless time stack up, his mild uneasiness begins to shift into paranoia. Day 1. Audio log, 7 hours inside.
What's that, the crackling on this thing? Is it even working? I've said I'm cold 300 times now, and it hasn't changed a single degree. The blanket isn't helping that much. At least give me a sign that this piece of junk is working, all right? A knock, a tap, anything. Throw me a bone here.
He sits with his legs folded on the bed and tears open the first meal packet. He eats it slowly, as though to savor the taste and the new sensation it brings. Perhaps he's waiting 7 hours to experience something new in the room's unchanging pitch before it becomes repetitive. It isn't long until Guy takes to pacing the room to each of the walls. The audio captures possibly an old conversation he recounts with someone under his breath, plausibly his brother.
It's not unusual,
Rexford explains.
Animals do the same when you place them in confined quarters. He's anxious, trapped, and bored, and pacing provides input in his life. Builds a mechanism to cope with.
Eventually, Guy crawls into bed and tries to rest. He manages to fall asleep for 10 hours straight, tossing and turning relentlessly in his sheets. When he wakes, the realization takes a moment to dawn on him as he rubs his eyes and tries vainly to get his vision back. He falls back into his pillow and sighs loudly.
Right, that's right. Shit.
As an entire day passes in the chamber, the adverse effects of his sensory deprivation begin to intensify and become especially more evident in his 8th log. Day 2, audio log, 30 hours inside.
They're everywhere, aren't they? All over the grainy darkness. There's so many of them. Spindly shapes are floating around me. I'm hallucinating. Aimlessly drifting, bouncing off of nothing. Aimlessly. I think they are organic spores. Swarms of them all over the place. What day is it? Can anyone hear me up there? I said, I'm hallucinating.
In view of this, he waves around both hands, sifting his fingers through the invisible objects his mind was manifesting. Before long, he claims to start hearing music in the corner, even snapping his fingers to the non-existent rhythm. For the remainder of the second day, the researchers take note of every hallucination Guy experiences. Visual, a kite on the wall, blooms of jellyfish, spores, a gray cat. Auditory, static from a radio, a piano's G major, incoherent whispers. In the early AM hours of his third day, submerged in darkness, Guy reaches the threshold of his sanity. At 6:53 a.m., he is sitting against the wall, his face buried in the crevice between his knees. Suddenly, without the slightest portent of warning, he chokes out a gasp and flings himself desperately to the wall. He crams 2 fingers in his mouth, prodding desperately at his throat as he vomits profusely into the bowl. Day 3. Audio log. 72 hours inside.
Right down. Oh, shit. Oh, God. Something poisonous is inside me. Slid right down my throat. Will I die? Will I fill up with mushrooms? No. I don't want to do this. I want out. Shut it all down, okay? I don't want to be here anymore.
Judging by his panicked utterance, he seems to believe he has swallowed one of the spores. The silver lining behind Guy's severe episode was that it acted as the perfect gauge for the experiment's next step. Now that the deprivation and quarantined blackness has successfully pried away at his resilience, it is time to administer the treatment. In the next instant, the lamp, which was bolted atop the table, lights up. Due to Guy's eyes most likely being weakened from his time in the same bleak enclosure, the white glow only shines as a dim, pale hue at the back of the room. At first, he backs away from it, his expression trapped behind pure shock. It seems that he's completely forgotten about the lamp's existence until now. A glint of joy shimmers across his face. Slowly, he approaches the table and gently rests his head over it. Nothing is said, but a distant muffled sob can be heard. For the remaining duration of the test, the bulb will shift its soft glow into a different color every 8 hours or so. By reintroducing Guy back into the light, the overseers hope to negate his long days without stimulation and, in a sense, guide back his rationality. To fit their increasingly differing schedules, each overseer agrees to assign themselves a particular color to monitor. Light exposure effects rating. 1. Westbrook. Green.
Subject's anxiety and overall mental tension have lessened considerably. His appetite has returned. Good.
2. Rexford. Yellow.
Guy seemed uneasy about the room changing color at first, but he seems to be over it. Yellow, being a bold, energetic color, tends to support happy thoughts and optimistic thinking. We especially see this in his recent recordings.
3. Rexford. Blue.
The compulsion to anxiously pace disappeared with the addition of blue. It looks to be making him tired. He spent most of the time sleeping during the exposure. At least his circadian rhythm seems to be getting back on track.
4. Westbrook. Purple.
The subject has a strong aversion to the color purple. He started complaining, growing progressively more restless, possibly an emotional situation from the subject's past. Claims the walls are moving. The color was not active for very long.
5. Wick. Red.
After looking over Guy's reaction to the purple light, I was especially nervous about what would happen with the color I chose. It didn't dawn on me at the time, but I soon realized that the only red-tinted rooms I could think of were from horror films. But his response has been a positive one. He's more active now, even performing different exercises and physical activities in the small space. Although, he's been lying in bed for some time now.
Day by day, Guy, who has previously been screaming about swallowing hallucinations, starts to act like himself again. As the positive effects become more tangible, the light reveals their restorative power over his mind. In the early morning of the 7th day, as Guy stirs in his sheets, something else appears on camera. Small, white, furry, with a pointed, twitching nose. A mouse scurries along the wall, apparently granted access to the room by way of an unchecked crack under Guy's bed, possibly even led there by the leftover crumbs from his food packets. It lets out a chattering sound, which immediately catches Guy's attention. He takes a moment to register the sound before hearing it again. In a split second, he jumps to his feet and twists his neck all over the place to find the tiny creature. By the time he spies its sharp movement, it has already crept past him and into the hidden crack. After the discovery, he deliberately starts to leave pieces of food under his bed. A newfound habit develops, where he lies along the cold floor, constantly checking to see if the mouse has returned. While Guy's intentions are unclear, Rexford shares his thoughts in his report.
I highly doubt Guy was going to hurt the thing. He is locked in stasis right now, in a room that never changes, save for the alternating lighting. It's been a week now, and we've seen a lot of improvement, but it's far from a full recovery. The mouse triggered something for him, a reminder that there was something else other than 4 walls and a toilet. It's a little piece of life for him to hold on to.
As many attempts as Guy makes, there is still no sign of his mouse lure working. Throughout the next few days, Guy's overall temperament begins to shift. In spite of the light and the recuperating stepping stones he's taken, paranoia starts to raise its way back, like a contaminating spill of oil. Day 9, 216 hours inside.
They've forgotten about me, haven't they? Forgotten about the test. I shouldn't have trusted them as I did. At some point, my food and water will run out. What then? I'll disappear. What else? Bastards, torturers. Lock me up and throw away the key. Are you all still taking notes?
Day 9, 218 hours inside.
I don't want to see these 4 walls anymore. Every crack, every ancient smudge is leaving a permanent stain on my memory. Is that what you had to see? Is this the hell you lived in? I don't want to sleep on these greasy sheets. I don't want to eat this dry, tasteless food, drying like sawdust on my tongue. Here is where I'll die, where not even God will hear me out there. It's back. That pressure, I felt it again, drilling right into my temple. It's been coming back more frequently lately. Sometimes I think the walls are moving. When I close my eyes, it feels like I'm underwater, traversing invisible depths nobody cares about. My room is shrinking further now and then. Sooner or later, it's going to crush me.
Day 9, 224 hours inside.
I need to move, walk around a while. The valves in my legs are starting to swell from not moving. Hurts like hell. Damn. I need to stretch them, but I can't. I can't leave the bed. I can't because I don't want to. When I start to stand, a bad feeling gnaws at me like an overwhelming premonition. Whatever it is, don't move. For the love of God, don't move. Something is at risk of being stimulated. The pressure is worse than ever. It isn't leaving this time. Even the air feels different. Every breath leaves an acrid taste in the back of my throat, as though I'm sharing the air with a different mouth.
Even with his growing protest to leave the confines of his bed, Guy finally succumbs to the stabbing pangs of hunger. He crawls cautiously out of bed and swiftly moves to his supplies. As he reaches for one of the packets, he immediately jolts and stops, winding around in a fury. He retreats to his bed and grabs the recorder. Day 9, 230 hours inside.
Gone. Torn to bits. My food. I can't. I don't. What happened?
Guy has discovered that 5 of his once sealed food rations are torn to shreds, gnawed open, the flexible pouched packaging gutted by some unthinkable means. With the lack of any footage, the researchers deduced that mice were the most likely culprits. If one had found its way inside, what was to stop more from sneaking in and raiding the unguarded stash? Although it is unexpected, there is still plenty of food left untouched to make do until the experiment's final days. A day Guy's rattled mind has transfigured into fiction by now. His already withered nerves are shot, so Guy's refusal to leave the safe boundary of his bed is only magnified. The soft light draped over the table is not providing even a sliver of comfort. Unsurprisingly, he can no longer fall asleep. Sometime later, between the hours of 3 and 4 a.m., a scream resounds in the chamber. The cameras reveal Guy scrambling backwards, pressing the small of his back firmly against the wall, with his eyes bulging and his fingers hooked into his chest. Day 10, 240 hours inside.
Just now, right at the edge of my bed. Oh God, I heard something. It sounded like movement. Something wrestling about. And then a growl. A horrible growl. I'm hallucinating. No, I'm not. There was a growl. The air's thick. There's a potent, rotting taste in my mouth. Something was there. Something was watching me.
The captured audio does not interpret Guy's growl, but the feed does suffer a few stuttering distortions in particular places. As the next sluggish roll of hours passes, Guy complains frequently about a growing sickness he feels, the increasing hidden pressures, the thickening rot in the air. The tension builds until his body ultimately demands to purge itself. He gags, covers his mouth, and then recklessly bolts to the toilet. When the vomiting sounds stop and the shaking in his legs ceases, he finds the strength to stand up and return to the safety net of his bed. Suddenly, he stops. The already fleeting color drains from his face. His hands quiver nervously, pinned to his sides. A lingering thread of bile runs down his chin. The team begins to worry he is having some sort of stroke. Luckily, his motor skills return to him as he falls backwards in a series of chaotic steps and collapses in the opposite unlit corner of the room. He sits there for some time. Eventually, he searches for his device and presses a trembling finger on record. Day 10, 245 hours inside.
I'm not alone. There's something here. I felt it just now, standing a few inches from me. Why? I see nothing, but it was there, looming over me, waiting for me.
Adopting the shaded corner as his newfound security, Guy does not return to his bed or the light blanketing it. Even as the bulb alternates from different colors, none of them spur a different reaction. He merely sits there, staring into unoccupied spaces and craning his neck as though seeing something. Day 10, 248 hours inside.
There's movement. I'm sure of it now. I'm no longer alone. But what are they? Ghosts? No, too active. At first, I thought the walls were moving, but I was wrong. It was the light that was moving, ripping and being bent as they passed through it. The darkness is properly marinating my brain to see them. Sometimes vague silhouettes, sometimes textureless shapes, sometimes shifting and then reshifting, moments of motion. Sometimes it clicks their teeth, molar against molar. Sometimes it's scratching nails on the floor. They are drawn to the light, moving only where it touches, hiding in it like a blanket. I don't think they can see me. Not yet.
One notable piece of footage reveals Guy making a poor attempt to reach his food and water rations. His head scans the room in a back-and-forth motion as if checking that the vacant coast of space is clear. Slowly, he drifts back into the reaching glow, inching closer to the supplies. When he is nearly there, he freezes. He turns his head towards something the camera can't see, something under the bed. After a moment of staring, he aborts the mission in a mad sprawl and retreats to the shadows of the corner. Day 11. 265 hours inside.
I saw a mouse under the bed, picking at one of the scraps I left. Then it started screaming and squirming all over the place. Blotches of blood were left where it rolled. Then it stopped and it started to float, as though it were caught on something's invisible jaws, digging into it, opening it up, entrails dangling like wet ribbons. I'm not safe.
Day 11. 273 hours inside.
I know how they're getting in. Small spaces in the room. I want to call them pockets. They squeeze their way in. The horrible stench returns. They squeeze their way out. I think I know where the pockets are, too. One on the ceiling, one under the bed, one on the left wall. They're everywhere, getting more and more numerous, getting louder. I've lost count of how many now. I have to stay away from the light. It will only make me easier prey. Please, if you can hear me, turn off the light.
The visual hallucinations haunting him only grow worse from there. Every audio log received grows primarily more fearful about the unseen things coming in and out of the room. While there are no remains of a mutilated rodent found under the bed, signs of discoloring on the floor are present. Despite the 3 hellish days he has spent in the dense, unlit veil, Guy refuses to leave the shelter of that corner. The light, which had previously hoisted his sanity back, was now what he avoided. What should have nullified the others appears to only intensify it now. As though summoned by misfortune, the researchers face an anomaly they did not prepare for. Both the cameras and Guy's recorders begin to malfunction. The stuttering audio distortions from earlier worsen. What sound does manage to leak out of Guy's device is corrupted with hisses of static and delays. Unable to fix the issue, they are forced to make a decision: end the experiment early and collect the accumulated data, or follow Guy's original instructions and proceed to the final day. With 2 in favor, Westbrook and Rexford, of continuing, and 1 opposed, Wick, the decision is made to endure until the 14th day. Even if the audio is no longer functional, there is still plenty of visual input to extract. Guy's mannerisms only continue to deteriorate. He no longer sleeps or forms an effort to reach the food and water, let alone even use the bathroom. Instead, he takes to urinating and defecating in the opposing ill-lit corner. Piles and pools of his excrement gather there like the accumulating waste of caged animals.
Things were bad.
Rexford shares from the following interview.
We honestly should have stopped and packed everything up then and there, but we had precise instructions to see it to the end. There was one night Victoria and I were working together. I remember stepping out to get some fresh air and coming back to her gasping, her hand cupped over her mouth in shock. I quickly checked the cameras and saw exactly what had her horrified. Guy was digging into his excrement and smearing it over the wall. At first, I thought it was nothing but a smothered mess of unintelligible garbage. But then I saw exactly what he was writing. They, everywhere, turn off, light. After that, Victoria wanted nothing further to do with the experiments. She told us she was done being party to torture. Westbrook was also losing the amount of time he could give, so things mostly fell on my shoulders. I didn't mind it much. I wanted to be involved. I wanted more than anything to see the success of the experiment.
With 2 days left of Guy's confinement, Rexford takes it on himself to make the final push.
I was trying to think of a way to ease him back into the light, so I thought of a plan. Little by little, I was going to amp the lantern's voltage until the room was nothing but light. No more dark corners for him to hide in.
To set his plan in motion, Rexford starts by amplifying the soft blue hue within the room. The lights begin to lick up the walls and climb over the bed. Guy quickly takes notice and noticeably shrinks further back. He tries to protest vainly, according to a recording of garbled feedback. Day 13. 315 hours inside.
Stop! You're drawing them closer. I'm listening. They will find me. Turn off the light. They will find me.
Ignoring Guy's clear objection, Rexford shines the light more strongly as it inches closer, burning away the shadowy blankets of Guy's position. In a desperate, animalistic effort, Guy resorts to slamming his fists against the locked door, clawing at it fruitlessly with his nails. Simultaneously, as the last shade of his protective layer evaporates away, Guy makes a mad dash toward the lantern. With a desperate flail of his fist, he punches it, shattering the bulb in an eruption of glass, like an aerial fireworks shell. As the darkness once again overlaps the room, and with adrenaline still racing through his system, he grabs handfuls of broken shards and shoves them in his mouth. The corrupted bits of audio still capture the sound of sharp bits breaking between his teeth. Rexford immediately abandons his post and rushes for the chamber. He opens the door to find a room with protein-stained bedsheets, hieroglyphic feces on the walls, and their test subject collapsed over the table.
The smell took me out of it.
Rexford comments.
An amalgam of different odors, composites of sweat, urine, feces, blood, rotting, and other questionable smells I don't care to describe. I tried to block it out. The last thing I wanted to do was vomit as I pulled him out of there. He was sputtering something to me while spitting out globs of blood and broken glass, something about his back burning. When I checked it for him, I had no idea what I was even looking at. Bruises, hand-shaped bruises all over him.
Wednesday, April 13th, at approximately 9:05 p.m., Guy is taken to Nassau University Medical Center, where he receives several stitches for his hand and also the loose flaps of tissue in his mouth. He is constipated, running a fever, severely dehydrated, and malnourished. When examining the peculiar bruises lining his spine, Dr. Marion Cobb asks if Guy has been assaulted. When told no, he shares his thoughts.
In Vietnam, we referred to unexplainable bruises as ghost bites, marks that appear without injury and have no business being there. It could run the risk of an underlying medical problem or even a risky blood disorder. We'll perform a complete blood count for any irregularities.
He added, skeptically.
However, if that is the case, I've never seen any this prominently shaped before.
The blood tests came back normal. As Guy recovers from his time in the bunker, he repeats the same series of tests and interviews he took before his incarceration. The tests to do with his memory showed that it had been impaired. He struggles with even the slightest question and takes 65% longer to complete each task. While admitted to the hospital, he is adamant that the nurse keep his room light off. As for the aftermath of the project, New York College journalist David Saxon, after months of evasion, is able to conduct a short interview with Guy on the first sunset of August. He goes on to describe the house where the exchange took place.
Dark, not so much as a flicker in any of the rooms. All the bulbs were screwed out of everything. Even the windows were spray-painted black. When I asked if the lights from our camera would be acceptable, he hesitantly agreed.
The reporter added,
From what I could see, Mr. looked very tired. His eyes were sunken and his skin was pale. like the pigment was being sucked right out of him. Here's the description of the experiment, as written on your website. An effort to diminish the harrowing effects of solitary confinement through the use of light manipulation. Yes. You've since retracted that statement. Why is that? Isn't it obvious? The result was not the one I wanted. Right. In hindsight, do you think that you underestimated what 2 weeks in the bunker would be like? Perhaps. In the beginning, I thought that I had taken every precaution imaginable. I believed my mental fortitude could overcome any obstacle. I was wrong. If you're comfortable enough to answer, I'd like to ask you more about your time in the bunker and about the hallucinations you experienced. Oh, yes. There were countless hallucinations in that place. Animals, toys, cars, music, you name it. But that isn't what you're asking about, is it? Well, no. I was referring to the things that, killed the mouse. I can't tell you how many nights I've spent praying that what I witnessed in that place was a simple fabrication of the mind. But it isn't that complex. A light was on in a dark place, and something took a liking to it. For a time, I believed what I saw in there wasn't real. That was until I started seeing them at home. Things rustling around, doors inching open, nails raking the kitchen tiles, looking for me. Is that why your house is so dark? I'd like to ask you something now. Do you have any kids at home? Huh? Yeah, I have one with another on the way. Why do you ask? Do they sleep with the nightlight? What is the relevance with that? You may want to tell your friend to turn the camera light down. They followed me home. Hopefully, they don't follow you. What do you mean by that?
No further questions are answered. Monday, December 28th, 6 p.m. I'm not sure how long humans are supposed to stay sane without human interaction, but I've been doing all right so far, I think. The silence is much worse anyway. The initial shock of it all was extremely unnerving, though. After the panic attack and near mental breakdown, I sat down determinedly and started recording what I knew about the whole situation. Observation 1. Almost all living organisms in the city have vanished overnight. People, animals, and insects are all gone. I'm not sure about microscopic organisms yet. The only other living things left behind are trees, grass, and most other plant life. I'm not sure how flowers and such will survive without other living organisms aiding them in pollination and such. I'll watch and see. Observation 2. Everything else seems to be as everyone left it. Cars are still in their driveways, and some doors to houses are open as if someone just stepped through the doorway. Observation 3. Electricity is not running. Phone lines and the internet are not working. Street lamps are dead. Phone lines just beep, and browsers greet me with dead web pages. None of my contacts are responding, and my phone won't charge. It's practically useless now. Luckily, the tape recorder I'm using to record this only takes AA batteries, so I should be able to keep it going for a while. Observation 4. The sun did not rise this morning. Does this even count as morning? It's been at least 9 hours since I've woken up, and it's remained pitch black outside. The sky is still completely covered with clouds, so no stars and moon can be seen. Observation 5. The wind is gone. I haven't felt a breeze kiss my face or heard the rustling of a gust through the branches since I woke up. The weather is showing no signs of changing. Observation 6. There is no sound. No birds or crickets chirping, no engines rumbling, nothing. The only sounds are the ones made by me. It all sounds much louder than it should. My footsteps on gravel, my breathing, the sound of my voice in this room, ringing in my ears, and the drumming of my own heartbeat. I can feel it in my head. It all seems so wrong. I want to shrivel up inside myself and just disappear. The only thing keeping me sane is this watch. Thank God that it's digital. I would lose my mind from the analog ticking. And I can never forget my trusty flashlight making this all possible. I would be stumbling in the dark if not for it. I'll look for some batteries later. I can't risk it dying. I think I'll spend the rest of this night gathering my things so I can explore outside the city limits tomorrow. I don't know if this is some kind of sick prank, an emergency evacuation, or mass alien abduction, but I will get to the bottom of this. Tuesday, December 29th, 7:33 a.m. Last night I went to bed at 10ish. I tried to, anyway. My heartbeat was so unbearably loud, and I was hyper-aware of my bodily functions. The sounds of swallowing saliva, my breathing, snoring, and the worst of all, my heartbeat, the constant drumming in my head. All of my things are packed. I filled my car with various foodstuffs from the local supermarket, as well as batteries, lots of batteries, some portable lamps and more flashlights. I don't think that counts as stealing. Normally, my conscience would bother me, but right now I'm actually feeling good about this, excited even. It feels good being prepared. I have this all planned out. I've got some spare tires in the back, some jumper cables and first aid, and I could always hop into someone else's car if need be. That dread of yesterday seems to be gone for now. The nearest town is about 58 kilometers from here. If I drive at a safe speed of